Today on Sports Central, we'll be going over 5 reasons why the Ohio State Buckeyes are going to beat Clemson in the Sugar Bowl and why this team is going to advance on to the national championship for a chance to play for a college football playoff title. And for Ohio State, this is a team that's only played 6 games this season, and there certainly is a lot of uncertainty around Ohio State this year. But I definitely think Ohio State is capable of beating Clemson here, and today we'll be going over 5 reasons why that is. These reasons will be in no particular order. And that being said, let's look at your number 1 reason, which is going to be Justin Fields, quarterback for Ohio State. He's got some of the biggest upside in all of the nation, in my opinion. I mean, if you look at his entire season and his career in general, I mean, he's been outstanding for Ohio State, and he's definitely a huge reason why this Ohio State team has had success over the past couple of years. And if you look at his 2020 stats, I mean, even though he did not have a very good game against Northwestern, I mean, for the rest of the season, he's had an outstanding year. I mean, he's put up 1,500 yards through only 6 games. He's put up 15 touchdowns. And even though he's got 5 interceptions, 2 of those came against Northwestern, which I honestly think Justin Fields will easily be able to flip that around. It just was a bad game for him going up against the Wildcats. But I mean, if you look at his accuracy rate, that explains everything here. He's got a 73% accuracy rate, which is one of the best in the nation. Most quarterbacks can only even hope to get up to 65%, let alone Justin Fields is completely surpassing that, currently at 73%. So he's doing outstanding in that category, and he's nearly the most accurate quarterback in the nation. Once again, I mean, if you look at accuracy rates, I think Mac Jones is in front of him, and that's just about it. He's in front of Trevor Lawrence as far as accuracy goes. So yeah, Justin Fields is playing very well in that area. He's also got great receivers to work with. We're going to be going over those in just a second, but he's got Chris Olave, and he's got all around just a great receiving core to work with, which is going to be huge coming into this matchup. I'd also argue that he's a top 3 quarterback in the nation. I mean, you got Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields up there, and you could argue Kyle Trask, maybe even Mac Jones, but all 4 of those quarterbacks, including Justin Fields, are some of the best quarterbacks in the nation. And for Ohio State, that's going to be huge as they come into this matchup against a Clemson defense that's definitely been improved. Number 2 is going to be the defensive line for Ohio State. This team has got one of the best defensive lines in the nation. There's no doubt about that, and it's been like that for several years. I mean, if you look at the amount of NFL draft picks that this Ohio State defensive line has given up, I mean, it's been outstanding for this team, and I mean, that's going to continue into next season as well. They've got several players with several sacks on the season, and to beat Clemson, you got to put pressure on Trevor Lawrence. There's no doubt about that. I mean, you can't give him a lot of time in the pocket because he's just going to throw dart after dart. So for Ohio State here, you got to put pressure on Trevor Lawrence, and I definitely think they're capable of doing that with as good of a defensive line as they do have. And if you look at the rush defense here, they only are allowing 96 average yards per game, which is outstanding out of any rush defense. And for Ohio State here, that's going to be huge coming into this matchup as you're going up against a running back in Travis Etienne that's pretty much as good as anybody. Number 3 is going to be the receiving core for Ohio State. They got 2 main receivers leading this part, including Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. Chris Olave looks to be an early round draft pick in 2021, and Garrett Wilson looks to be back next season. As for the receiving yards per game, though, they got 275 average, which is even more than the rushing core, and that's outstanding in general. 275 yards is a big stat line there. And if you look at their receivers, I mean, Chris Olave has put up 528 yards, 5 touchdowns on the season. Garrett Wilson is actually leading him with 688 yards with 5 touchdowns. And you might say, if you're looking at a regular season, just a 12-game season, you'll probably say that those stats are not very good. But this is through 6 games right here. This is through 6 games. Those stats are through 6 games. And if we were to do 6 more games, it's more than likely that both of those receivers would be over 1,200 yards on the year, which is outstanding, and let alone the conference schedule that Ohio State has played. So, I mean, for both receivers, they're just as good as anybody in the nation right now. And they've combined for already around 1,200 yards on the season with 10 touchdowns, which is also outstanding. I mean, this is a team that definitely has got a lot of great players, especially offensively. This is going to be huge for Justin Fields as well to have 2 very reliable wide receivers. And these 2 receivers right here are not the only receivers that Ohio State has. Number 4 is going to be Ryan Day, head coach for Ohio State. This is only his 2nd season as the Buckeyes head coach, and this is the 2nd time that he's made it to the college football playoff within 2 seasons. He made it last year, and Ohio State ended up losing in the first round. But this is a team that I definitely think, I mean, this is a rematch against Clemson, kind of in the same scenario as it was last year. I definitely think Ohio State, though, this time around has honestly got almost a better chance to beat Clemson. And I mean, you guys are all going to say, oh yeah, they have no momentum. They had a close game to Indiana, close game to Northwestern. But the thing is that Ohio State's got as much talent as really anybody. And Justin Fields, I mean, Justin Fields is playing as good as anybody as well. And honestly, if you look at this entire team, like you got Chris Olave, 2 great receivers, great running back. in Trey Sermon as well. So Ohio State is very talented. And he also got Ryan Day at head coach, who's 22-1 overall. Only loss in his coaching career with the Buckeyes so far is against Clemson from last season. So if he can just make it up and beat Clemson this time around, that'd be huge for him. But yeah, Ryan Day is just as good of a coach as anyone right now. Lastly, number 5 is going to be the motivation factor for Ohio State. And I said this in my prediction video for the Clemson-Ohio State game. This team is experienced, and the motivation is going to be extreme on the Ohio State side in this game. And you're going to say, oh yeah, the motivation on the Clemson side is also going to be huge. But for Ohio State here, Ohio State's going to have a massive amount of momentum because of Dabo Swinney on the Clemson side. I'm sure most of you guys have heard about this, but Dabo Swinney actually ranked Ohio State as the 11th ranked team in the nation, or the 11th team in the nation according to the coaches poll. And honestly, that is extremely disrespectful out of Dabo Swinney's part to rank Ohio State as number 11. And even though he may have some reasoning for it, I'm sure all the Ohio State players are going to have that completely in their minds as they go into this game here. They're going to be thinking about that the entire time. And the motivation factor is going to be huge in this game. Ohio State's definitely going to have more motivation, I think, than Clemson if we're looking at this. If we're looking at this fully, I definitely think Clemson is not going to be slacking off in this game. Both teams are going to be playing hell of a games. But if you look at Ohio State here, they've got more motivation than pretty much anybody. And this is also likely Justin Fields' last time playing for the Buckeyes if they do lose. Same thing with Chris Olave. So both those players, I'm sure, are going to go off in this game. And also, if you want to see my prediction for this game, I'll link it in the video, or I'll tag it as well. But more motivation in this game than any other one in the season for Ohio State. If you look at that Northwestern game in the Big Ten Championship, honestly, I would say Ohio State wasn't very motivated in that game. And I'm sure they were motivated, but they just did not play all that good of a game. But this is going to be a totally different atmosphere, totally different matchup here. And I think Ohio State's definitely going to come into this one with a lot of confidence and motivation. That being said, that wraps up my 5 reasons why Ohio State's going to beat Clemson. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this game. Score predictions, all that down below. I appreciate you guys all watching and sticking around. If you enjoyed this, slap a like on it, subscribe as well as it really helps the channel. I'd really appreciate that. But once again, thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I will see you all later.